Now we head back to the topic of Afghanistan. Farah Stockman from the Boston Globe is going to join us to talk about it. The title of the piece is Afghan War Costs Grips Both Parties. And we're going to have a discussion on what their solutions are for those war costs. Farah, welcome to the Young Turks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get to that. Where do the Democrats want to find the money to pay for the Afghanistan war, and where do the Republicans want to find it?
Well, Democrats are divided. You've got some Democrats that want to get out of Afghanistan and they want to wind down the war, so they'd rather spend that money here at home. There are others who say that if it's important to wage this war, then we should have a war surtax. We should basically put a 1% tax on low-income people, going all the way up to 5% on wealthy people to kind of spread the burden of the war across the American population.
And how about the Republicans? My guess is they're not going to agree to a tax cut. Tax increase. So where are they magically going to find the money?
Well, they're using this as a chance to kind of oppose the domestic agenda items that the Democrats want that they don't want. So they're saying, let's put health care on hold, let's trim back the stimulus, let's not do this cap and trade, and basically let's just stick with what's important, which is jobs and this war.
All right, so let's take that one by one. Let's go to healthcare first. The healthcare is paid for. In fact, the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, nonpartisan, says that it reduces deficit over 10 years and even more so in the next 10 years. So what would that have to do with spending extra money? Isn't that just totally unrelated?
I think that there are some Republicans who would say it's not unrelated. They would say that they believe that this health care plan will not save as much money as the administration claims. I'm not an expert on the health care costs, but I can tell you that over the last 8 years we've spent about $1 trillion on the war on terror, which is both Iraq and Afghanistan. About more than $700 billion in Iraq, and it'll be about $300 billion in Afghanistan in 2010. And so that's roughly equal to what people say this healthcare overhaul will cost over the next 10 years.
All right. In your piece, you say that combined, the Iraq and Afghanistan has cost us about $937 billion so far, and it's been about 8 years or so, roughly speaking, for those two wars. Now, the estimate for what the healthcare will cost over 10 years, over the next 10 years, is right in between that number, because I believe the House number is a little higher than that, and the Senate number is a little lower than $937 billion. So right about that number. But the problem is, again, with this analogy, is that those bills pay for themselves. It's not out of thin air that they get the money. They, raise a little bit of taxes here, they get some savings there, etc. Whereas under the Republicans' rule, during those 8 years, we didn't pay for that $937 billion at all. It wasn't deficit neutral. No one asked that it be deficit neutral. So aren't they indisputably full of crap when they claim that they care about the deficit now?
Well, I am not going to tell anybody they're indisputably full of crap on Capitol Hill, because they reserve the right to be full of crap. But no, I think that's a point that Democrats are making. They're saying, look, we're being told we have to pay for health care. We're being told we have to pay for welfare and for all our new spending. So we should have to pay for these overseas operations as well. And I think there's a lot of indications that Obama is going to talk about this. He has been meeting with his OMB director. He has been meeting with budget people. I think he's not going to hide under the rug. I mean, the fact remains, yes, we borrowed a lot of money to pay for Iraq and Afghanistan, and we're in debt. And I think that everybody on Capitol Hill is looking at that deficit, and they're worried about it.
So let's talk about how much extra this surge is going to cost us, because it appears that tomorrow night Obama's going to say that we're going to put in 30,000 extra troops. How much does that cost us extra per year, Farah?
Well, estimates differ. Some people have said they think it's about $1 million a soldier a year this is not exactly a surge. These guys are going to go in over a period of 18 months, unlike Bush's surge in 2007, where 20,000 guys went in, they were on the ground within a matter of months, and then they came out quickly. This is sort of more of a slow, I don't know if it's a trickle, but they're going in over 18 months, and so it's hard to say that each soldier would cost $1 million over the next, because you're not sure at what point in the fiscal year they're going to arrive. I also think I've talked to some budget experts that think it's more like $800,000 of soldier a year, but it's still an awful lot of money.
So we're talking, if those numbers are right, about between $24 and $30 billion extra per year for the new troops.
I think that's what I'm hearing. That's the ballpark I'm hearing, and even people on Capitol Hill, Dick Lugar said the other day, they're all lamenting that there haven't been good estimates, but these are the numbers that are out there right now.
So again, just let's focus on this, how we're going to pay for it a little bit more here. You said there that Obama has talked to his budget director, or as Bush used to call him, his budget man, and that he's got a way to pay for it. Is that, really? Do you have a source on that? Because I would be shocked if Obama came out and said, here's how I plan to pay the extra $24 to $30 billion.
I'm not saying that he has a way to pay for it. I'm saying that I think he will address the cost. I think he will acknowledge that this is expensive. I think he'll acknowledge this is a time of economic hardship.
And then borrow the money.
And borrow the money. But I do think that, we're still spending, for all of this talk on Afghanistan, we're still spending the vast majority of money on Iraq. And the hope is that U.S. troops are going to start coming home from Iraq in 2010, that they'll be out, the combat troops will be out by 2011, and that there'll be that quote-unquote savings. And so you'll see, basically we're going to spend more than $130 billion in 2010 on these two wars, and more than half of that is going to be Afghanistan. But as Iraq goes down, the idea is that you'll have something left for Afghanistan.
Well, we're talking to Farah.
But these are still borrowed. This is still borrowing.
We're talking to Farah Stockman from the Boston Globe, and you see, that's why I think that Obama buys into right-wing talking points and right-wing framing way too much. Remember in his speech on health care, he said his number one priority was that it would be deficit neutral. When it comes to Afghanistan, if the Republicans don't ask for it to be deficit neutral, then he doesn't ask for it to be deficit neutral. And it makes no sense. It's absolutely indefensible. And he'll go out and make that claim anyway. Now, when you turn to the Republicans, so you said maybe health care, maybe climate change, to take money out of that, but climate change legislation isn't going to happen anyway, so it's not like you're saving any money by quote-unquote killing it. You've already killed it, in my estimation. I'm getting a little ahead of what's happened here, but not much. Healthcare pays for itself, so that leaves stimulus spending. So the Republicans are going to go out there and tell the American people, we want to take away money that might create your jobs because we want to spend it in Afghanistan. They're really going to have the political nerve to do that, and you think that's a smart political move?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that's why I think they're going to end up borrowing this money, because Democrats don't want to take away from their very ambitious domestic agenda, and Republicans don't want to give up the war.
How about taxes? It's like we've so believed in the Republican way of thinking that under no circumstances can taxes ever be raised, even if they're down to 0.5% for the highest income bracket. No. The answer is always tax cuts. We need some sort of revenue, right?
Well, you've got some people talking about it. Obie of Wisconsin was talking about it and has filed a bill. Not a lot of people think it's going to be successful, although there are some powerful chairmen of committees on Capitol Hill who are looking at it. And
so, Farah, I'm sorry. Let me just jump in there, because that's the thing that I want to focus on here at the end. Which is, so Obie has this bill. It makes a lot of sense. He says, look, I'm 1% for everybody, 5% for the highest brackets, and we pay for the war. If you like it, what, you can't pay 1% for a war you agree with? The war that, some people in the country, politicians on the other side, say is absolutely, positively necessary, and the highest income can't pay 5%. So it makes a lot of sense, right? So, but I hear every time reporters come on the show and I read the articles, they say, but it'll never pass. Why won't it pass?
I think people are scared for their seats. I think Democrats are looking at re-election. You're looking at an economy that hasn't produced as many jobs as they want, and I think people are scared. And I mean, for the last 8 years, we've borrowed money to pay for wars, and we have the previous administration did not raise taxes. In fact, it cut taxes on wealthy people. I think that's probably historically unprecedented during a time of war. But I do think that people are afraid of the political realities that are going to hit them.
Here's a political reality. You either raise the taxes so that it's deficit neutral, or you don't get the extra troops.
We'll see. We'll see if they. We'll see how well Obi does with that.
Because the problem there is, and here's the final sticking point on it, because if you did it against a Republican president, it makes a lot of sense, and then politically it's advantageous for the Democratic Party, because you say, look, it's up to the president. Either he's going to raise your taxes, or he's going to pull out of Afghanistan. The problem is they don't have a Republican president. They have a Democratic president, and they're going to blink, aren't they, because they don't want to put the Democratic president in that tough a spot.
You're also forgetting that our unborn grandchildren are not voters in the next election.
So pile it on, both sides. All right, Farah Stockman from the Boston Globe. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back. Young Turks.